This is Judy Herman, advocate for authentic humanity, counselor, and author of Beyond Messy Relationships. You are listening to #POD podcasts of Dentistry with Dr. Panks.
podcastofdentistry.com/squadcast. I believe everyone has a story to tell. And if you want to start a podcast to tell your story, the easiest way to start one is Squadcast. No special hardwares, no special softwares needed for you or your guests. You simply start podcasting using any laptop or desktop or Android phone and even a Chromebook in a browser like Chrome, Firefox, Opera, Brave. So, you may ask, how did you do it? Well, it's simple. As a host, you simply schedule an interview on your dashboard. Share that particular link to the guest and hit record to get studio quality audio. Done. No sign-ups needed by your guests, no special mics needed by anyone, and still get studio quality audio. There can be up to 4 people at one time, including the host. You can even see the video of your guests. Connect any earphone or headphones with mic and you're golden. When you're done, simply stop recording and everything with separate tracks is automatically uploaded on your dashboard, ready to download in no time. Most of the basic audio editing is also automatically done when you download. Do I not make any sense? Well, they do have demo videos on their website to show you exactly how it is done. I did use the support and they have best in the class support. They are so confident in their services that they have even compared their services with other competitors. Another thing that gives me peace of mind is redundancy. That means that even if there is some error, you can still get the backup of all the recordings sent to you in your email through your dashboard. So, if you really like the idea of starting your own podcast, podcastofdentistry.com/squadcast. The subscription starts only at $10 per month. You can cancel anytime through your account without making any calls or any change of emails. Super easy. Once again, to support this show, simply go to podcastofdentistry.com/squadcast. Give it a try. Thank you for finding time to listen to session number 20 at #POD Podcasts of Dentistry. And I'm your host, Dr. Panks Dhingra. As usual, you can find all the links and notes to this session at podcastofdentistry.com/session 20. Today, our guest is Dr. Kyle Stanley. His bio reads something like this. Dr. Kyle Stanley was named as the next generation of cosmetic dentistry by the AACD in 2015 and top 10 young educators in dentistry by the Seattle Study Club. He graduated Magna Cum Laude from the Herman's Ostrow School of Dentistry of USC and then completed a dental implant residency along with a dental implant specialty in Brazil. While at USC, Dr. Kyle completed an aesthetic mini-residency with the world leader Dr. Pascal Magne and was honored with the Charles L. Pincus Award for outstanding achievements in aesthetic dentistry by the American Academy of Aesthetic Dentistry. He is also a dedicated researcher who has published in some of the top international dental journals about topics related to aesthetics, dental implants, and smile design. Dr. Stanley is a KOL for many well-respected companies and has presented on 5 continents as a highly in-demand speaker. Dr. Stanley is a leading advocate of mental health in dentistry. He maintains an exclusive private practice in Beverly Hills, California. Now, that is a long list of achievements. In our podcast, he talks about his experience with Guide, shares his experience of how to go about starting your own implant journey, his triad of mentors. I believe he is a perfect example of luck and hard work coming together in a very successful way. We also touch on successful implant concepts like zero bone loss by Thomas Linkovich and the world-renowned The Lip Factor. We certainly talk about his AI company called Pearl, the effect of AI or artificial intelligence in dentistry as a profession and the future of dentistry because of AI. By now, you might feel anxious. At least I was. Listening to and hearing about his accomplishments in such a short span of time that I had to humanize him. There were few emotional moments, and that clearly shows the human side of him. We continue towards the end by asking my favorite Tim Ferriss-inspired questions. In the end, I really loved the spirit of inspiration, entrepreneurship, humility, and vision. I hope you love this evergreen podcast the way I did. So without further ado, Dr. Kyle Stanley. I can go in many different directions, especially with you. But few things that really interest me and probably my audience too is two journeys. One is your entrepreneurship journey with Pearl, and Digital Smile Design, and everything, getting funding for Pearl and so on. In short, artificial intelligence in dentistry. So that's one aspect, and the second aspect is the clinical aspect. I would love to touch base on the clinical aspect too, because you do some amazing things in dentistry, in cosmetic dentistry.
Thank you.
So I would like to touch both of them, or at least the entrepreneurship journey to begin with. I love that aspect.
Either way is fine.
Well, by the way, I listened to your interview with Dr. Howard Farhan. People should listen to that interview. It was really good about artificial intelligence, how that was involved. So I would recommend that for people.
Thank you.
Now, let's start a little bit. I want to know your story. So you graduated from USC, right?
Yeah.
And now, out of USC, how did you end up being in Beverly Hills, right? with your partners, Helm, Najad. How did you get into with them?
Yeah, sure. So while I was at USC, I studied under a guy named Pascal Magne, who is, a pretty famous dentist in the bonding, minimally invasive, restorative, cosmetic type of treatments. He's from Switzerland. And me and Dr. Najad were actually both in his special program, which was called the Esthetic Selective, where he selected, I think it was 10 or 12 students and worked very closely with them. So for about 18 months, we worked really closely with Dr. Magne. And then when we graduated, well, let me go back, I guess.
Yeah.
While I was there, I told Dr. Magne that I wanted to learn implants. And he said, well, if you want to learn implants, the best place to learn is in Brazil. So I moved to Brazil. I learned Brazilian Portuguese, and I did my implant residency, implant specialties in Brazil.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm sorry.
Yes.
So you were still a student that time?
I was still a student at that time. So it was my senior year. I was deciding what I wanted to do next, if I wanted to start practicing, if I wanted to do more training. And I decided I wanted to do more training, more in the surgical implant realm. I talked to Dr. Magne because he was really my only mentor at that point.
And so Dr. Pascal Magne was at USC with you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was a professor there and still is a professor there.
Okay, great. Okay. So your mentor, Dr. Pascal, recommended you to go to Switzerland to do your implant.
To Brazil, actually.
To Brazil, sorry. To Brazil.
Brazil, yes. So I went down there. I was there for a little over a year.
Okay.
And got a lot of really hands-on clinical training in extraction, bone grafting, perio-pros. Really, it's kind of a perio-pros type of residency where we're doing the implants, but we're also doing the extractions. We're also doing the sinus lifts. We're doing the tissue grafts, and we're restoring the teeth as well.
Interesting.
So then I came back, and I was teaching in the clinic with Dr. Magne, and who was also teaching was my partner from dental school, Dr. Najad.
Okay.
And we were always talking. At the time, he had his own practice. And I was working for a bunch of different people. We were talking, and we always said, at some point we should do a practice together where, he would say you could do a lot of the implant and surgical stuff, and he could do more of the restorative stuff. We ended up finding our practice in Beverly Hills and partnering up with Dr. Helm. So that was, I guess 7 years ago.
Okay.
We've been at that practice. Yeah, so that was how it all came together, was teaching at USC together and always talking about business and always talking about the future and what we could do.
Got it. Oh, that's interesting. So, so basically, Dr. Pascal is instrumental in getting you.
Oh, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. He was the glue. You know, he got me into my residency in Brazil. He introduced me to really my next mentor as well,
Okay.
and helped me get started on the lecturing journey as well.
So, which university or program did you go to in Brazil?
In Brazil, I went to the Universidade de Santa Catarina, Universidade Federal de Santa Catarina. So it's the university, the Federal University of Santa Catarina, which is in the south of Brazil, in a city called Florianópolis, which is an amazing, beautiful city. It's an island connected by a bridge with 42 different beaches and beautiful people.
Wow.
And the department that I was in was called CEPIG, which is an implant department.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's very interesting. Now that all adds up, because I was trying to read about that and I couldn't really, like, how this guy is in, in Beverly Hills, of all the places in the world, one of the best places to be, and doing higher end dentistry.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're doing aesthetics, you're doing implants, obviously, and Dr. Helm is doing the restorative part. Right.
Dr. Helm and Dr. Najad do more of the, I would say, tooth-based restorations, and I'm doing more of the kind of perio-pros type of cases.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, that involve implants or involve, crown lengthening or things like that. Whenever there's some type of surgical element, that's where I come in.
Got it. And so after Dr. Pascal, who was your second mentor?
Yeah, so good question. So Dr. Magne introduced me to my second mentor, who is Sasha Jovanovic.
Oh,
Sasha
from Guide.
Jovanovic, exactly.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, yes, I know.
Very famous periodontist, trained in prosthetics as well. Lectures all around the world. One of the premier speakers on bone regeneration, implant dentistry. He was one of those guys that, 30 years ago was doing studies on dogs and figuring out what's the best way to grow bone. So I'm very lucky to have studied with Sasha now for about 10 years.
Wow.
And we teach together, we've practiced together, because I practiced as well at the Guide Institute. And I'm just lucky to call him a friend and a mentor as well.
Great. Yes, I think you really got lucky with two great mentors.
Well, yeah, and then I got a third mentor.
Ooh, okay, great.
So my third mentor, everybody knows, who is Christian Coachman.
Oh, yes.
Inventor of DSD. So when you take these three great men together, you have Pascal, who's kind of this restorative, very science-based mentor.
Right.
You have Sasha, who is implant and surgically based, and then you have Christian, who is kind of digital science laboratory, bringing everything together. That I was just very lucky to call these people my friends and call them my mentors, and I really owe any success that I may have to them.
Great. I've always listened to Dr. Sasha's not interviews, what I meant, Dr. Sasha's lectures. I do have one of my friends. He was at Guide and studied at Guide, and that's how I knew about Guide too. Great. I mean, for people who don't know Guide, it's correct me if I'm wrong. It's funded by Nobel Biocare, right? And
they do have some sponsorships from some different companies. Yeah,
right. So it's an implant institute, and where the great mentors and great teachers called GIDE, based in Los Angeles.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. So for somebody who doesn't know, please check them out. Really, really great. I've heard good
really
things about it.
High level teaching.
So I think it's a great question for somebody like me, because I do basic implants, nothing dramatic, but for us or anybody to achieve your level of experience, what should their journey be? Like, where can they start, or where can they start again? Let's put it that way. To be
Yeah, it's a good question. And I get this question often because people say, what type of course should I do? Should I go directly to a clinical course where,
Mm-hmm.
you place as many implants as you can? Should I do a theoretical course? Should I do a mentorship? I think the best way to do it is start with a theoretical course.
Okay.
Because oftentimes I get people that come to me after going to one of these courses, let's say, out of the country where you place a lot of implants. And they said, I placed 30 implants, but I have no idea why I place them in a certain position, where I place them, how they will evolve. So I think the best way to do is start with a theoretical course.
Okay.
A theoretical course that gives you every step that you need to know how to avoid the problems, because I learned a lot of my mistakes from my own patients.
Right.
And it's better if you can learn from other people's mistakes. Now, of course, I did avoid mistakes by learning things from Sasha and learning things from my residency.
Sure.
But if you can go to a course where the speaker talks about their own mistakes, I think that's a very good way to learn. So getting that theoretical basis first, the science basis. Once you do that, then going on to more of a hands-on course, I think, is the way to go. And I'm gonna plug one of my courses.
Sure.
That we have this year. So we have a course in Dallas, in Beverly Hills, and in Palm Beach, Florida, with my good friend Thomas Linkevicius, who came up with this idea of zero bone loss concepts. And don't come to see me, come to see him, because he is just one of the leaders in implant dentistry in the world that is very, very science-based. Every concept that he discusses and that we discuss together now is based on clinical research, not done on pigs and not done on mice, but on humans. He has the clinical research department and very, very sound research, very respected research. So
great.
I think a course like that is a way to start. So where you learn the concepts, you learn how to avoid problems. Then you go to more of a hands-on course, let's say, like on patients. And then after that, the best way to do it is continuing with a mentorship, finding someone that you can trust, that you can call and say, hey, I'm having this problem, or what should I do? And I think that's the continued long-term goal.
Makes sense.
Of education.
Right. Not everybody can go to Brazil, and spend a year learning what you learn. And I think it's really hard to take time away from your practice when everything is dependent on your practice. And now, do I want to take a year's break just to learn implants and lose all the money for the one? No, it doesn't work for many, many, many dentists, especially if they don't really have a partner or established offices, somebody else to take care of it. So thank you. And so that would be the theoretical part. Now, where could they know about that particular course? Is there a website that you can talk about?
Yeah, so just my website is the easiest place, drkylestanley.com, drkylestanley.com, and everything's on there. They can message me on Instagram, same thing, drkylestanley, Dr. Kyle Stanley, and I'd be happy to send them a link.
And do you have a follow-up course where you could do actual implants?
Yeah. So
after the theory,
with us, we don't. Together with me and Thomas, there's some good courses that are happening with some of my friends, the Digital Dentistry Institute.
Okay.
They do some good hands-on courses. I also do remote mentoring.
Okay.
So basically, you kind of have me on speed dial, and if you need help with a case, and I look at your cases. So I think that's a continued way of having access to someone that I would say knows what they're doing.
So at Digital Smile Dentistry, are students placing implants on patients?
Digital Dentistry Institute, yes. They have a few courses. I think they have one in Canada and one in Mexico where they're actually placing on patients.
What about in the U.S.? Do they have nothing?
In the U.S., I think there's a course in Arizona.
Okay.
I forget what it's called, but I haven't been to it, so I can't give any feedback, but I know
Sure.
that there is access. There's only a few states in the U.S. that allow
Allow you.
temporary licenses.
Right. Arizona is one of
So,
them. Yeah. You're
yeah,
right.
Arizona is one. I think Ohio may be one, but there's no courses there
Hmm.
that I know of.
Okay.
So I think Colorado may do it as well.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. So do that theory part, then do the practical aspect, maybe at
Yep.
Digital Dentistry Institute, or
Yes.
wherever. Oh,
Yeah, wherever, yeah.
yeah. I know Dr. Justin Moody also has the one in Arizona. I've interviewed
Oh,
him
good.
too,
Great.
and my friends have gone to that course, and it's pretty good. Many people like
Good.
it. Yeah. So maybe for the second stage they could go there.
Yeah.
Now, right. So starting on your journey, you were still at the school, went to Brazil, learned implants, and then met Dr. Sasha, learned implants and regeneration more. And then how did you
Yes.
get involved with Digital Dentistry Institute? How did you get involved with them?
Digital Dentistry Institute or
Yeah.
Digital Smile Design?
Well, both, actually. I'm
Both.
going to ask
Yeah.
both. Whatever.
Yeah, so Digital Dentistry Institute just came about a few years ago.
Mhm.
It is with some of my friends, Saj Jivraj and Sandeep Raul and Bobby Birdie. So really top prosthodontists and periopros, actually dual trained like Bobby Birdie.
Mhm.
And they had invited me to start speaking for them. And these were guys that I had spoken with and looked up to for a long time.
Okay.
We're all on the lecture circuit. We've done a lot of global symposiums together, and so when I knew that they were doing an institute and they had invited me to speak, that it was a good opportunity because they're all very science-based. They all do a lot of treatment. They've all made mistakes. They've all learned from their mistakes. They
Right.
publish. So I like to work with people that are respected in the industry, that are really science-based, research-based kind of clinicians.
Mhm.
And so that was how I got involved with them.
Got it. And now, seems like you're a speaker at multiple places, and you were called as one of the youngest speakers by Seattle Study Club. Am I right?
Yeah, that's right.
Man, listen, I'm getting jealous of you right now with what you've achieved. Now, how did you get involved with the Seattle Study Club? Because they are tough. I mean,
Yeah.
I know someone, I'm not going to name, but they were not accepted by Seattle Study Club to be a speaker.
Yeah.
So how did that happen?
Yeah, I got lucky on that. That came through, I think it came through Noble Biocare. They had recommended me to go to their speaker, I forget what they call it, New Speakers Bureau or something like this.
Okay.
So they basically, I think they only do it every 3 years or every 5 years, where they bring in new speakers and you kind of have to audition,
Uh-huh.
right? So you give a little talk,
Yeah.
and all of the dental directors are there of each club. And they decide if you are allowed to be in the circuit in their club. So I was lucky that I got in, and I have to tell you, Seattle Study Club is some of the best clinicians that I speak to.
Right.
Because I speak all over the world, and I speak in big cities and small cities and other countries and developing countries. And when I go to Seattle Study Club clubs, it's very high level. Everybody knows what they're doing. People, again, are research-based. They're normal people that have practices. And I just really enjoy it because it's a high level, which is great. And
Yeah.
it's because they have all these, not me, but they have all these other amazing speakers that come in and talk to them.
Right.
On the Seattle Study Club circuit, you have really, really high-level clinicians.
Great. Now, if you don't mind sharing, share your day of your audition at Seattle Study Club. I'm sure people would be interested to know.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
So my day there. So it was in Hawaii,
Okay.
which was kind of nice. I I got up and I went snorkeling in the morning because it was a beautiful day in Hawaii with my wife. Got ready and went and kind of met some people. I was very new. I didn't know very many people there, so met some people. Luckily, I did get to meet my friends Rob Ritter and Chris Ramsey, who are in South Florida,
Okay.
and they really welcomed me.
Okay.
They were already speaking in there, and they said, "Hey, we saw you at American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry, and we really like what you're doing. Let me kind of show you the ropes." So they were super, super cool at the beginning to show me the ropes. And then, so you're sitting there and you're watching all of these speakers speak.
Yeah.
And each person only had 15, 20 minutes.
Right.
And I saw some really high-level speakers speaking. So, I was a little nervous.
Sure.
But I wanted to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did was they introduced each speaker, where they sit and read their bio.
Right.
Dr. Smith went to school here, and then she went to school here, and she has private practice here, so on and so on. So what I did differently is I came up and I introduced myself. And on my slides, I showed my mentors, where I went, kind of stuff we're talking about now.
Right.
Time in Brazil, and my family, so and so. And I think that set me apart a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And it worked. So now I'm pretty lucky to be speaking with Seattle Study Club. I spoke at their yearly symposium 2 years ago, I guess, and I'll be there in a few weeks giving some expert tips.
Great. Now, did they actually grill you? Did they start asking some great?
They didn't. No, it was more kind of performance based.
Okay.
They give you your 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then afterwards they decide if you've done it or not.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I was like, yeah, I mean, if I were you, if I were sitting interviewing you, I would like, hey, Carl, why did you do that? By
right.
the way.
Right. Yeah.
Just to have
like
a little fun.
Like a board, right?
Like a board.
Yeah. No, everybody there, we say that it's tough to get into there, but everybody there is so nice. I mean, everybody gives you a hug and is welcoming and thanks for coming. And it's really like a family at Seattle Study Club. So, yeah. Nice. Don't get the wrong idea that it's like these hard-pressed people. No,
that was my
nice people in dentistry.
Yeah, thank you for changing that. But I actually thought that way.
Yeah.
All right, great. That's interesting. So you've been the youngest speaker, got great mentors, and probably that's the reason you are where you are.
For sure.
Now so that gives a little bit about you, about being in dentistry and being in clinical aspect of it. I think we forgot. So how did you meet Christian Koshman? Everybody,
yes.
That'll be a great story too.
Christian, I like to say Christian was my mentor before he knew he was my mentor, because he was mentoring me from afar, just by me reading his articles, by me watching his videos, seeing him speak. But I didn't meet him until, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, when we were actually in Indonesia.
Oh.
So we were speaking together in Indonesia. I was kind of the opening act, and he was the headliner.
Wow.
And he came and watched, I would say, the last 5 or 10 minutes of my lecture.
Okay.
And I knew he was coming for the last few minutes, so I made sure to show something very interesting at the end. I wanted to impress him.
Okay.
And I showed something called, that we came to call the lip factor, which is using plastic surgery involved with cosmetic dentistry, and he loved it. So afterwards he came up to me and said, "Hey, what was that thing you did with the lip?" And we started talking, and I speak some Portuguese, and he was like, "Well, why the hell do you speak Portuguese?" So we really just became quick friends, very quick friends. And then he really helped me a lot. He promoted what I was doing. He invited me to speak for digital smile design at their symposiums and their courses. And now we write articles together and we talk about business. And, again, he's just become one of my closest mentors. And I'm just lucky to have him.
Great. Now, do you want to elaborate a little bit about the lip thing?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the lip factor came from me really being obsessed with studying beauty and studying faces. I remember in dental school, I was supposed to be studying teeth and, teeth in the mouth, but I was so interested in research on why we find things beautiful. So not just humans, but why we find architecture beautiful, why we find certain animals more beautiful than the other, but then again, why we find certain humans more beautiful than the other.
Okay.
And I wanted to look at peer-reviewed research on why certain people are perceived as being more attractive than the other. So I started studying plastic surgery research. I started studying uh, psychology, sociology, anthropology, all of these researches. And I started realizing that there's a disconnect between dentistry and these other specialties.
Okay.
And I wanted to find where we could bring the connection together. And I found that that really was the lip. The lip was something that dentists never really talked about. We never knew we could adjust it, bring it up, bring it down, bring it forward, bring it back. And so I found this procedure called the lip lift, which was a procedure that was used in plastic surgery for decades, but not a lot of plastic surgeons were doing it at the time. This was about 12 years ago, and no dentist knew what it was.
Sure.
So I started writing an article, actually in dental school. I started writing an article. I didn't end up publishing it until I think 2017. It took a while to publish, so it took 9 or 10 years to publish. But once I published that, then I kind of became known for being this lip guy, for being the dentist that knows about the lip and knows about smile and beauty. So then I found other like-minded dentists around the world through Christian. We have now written a lot of other research about facial flow and incisal edge position and things like that. But my goal was to bring together plastic surgery, dermatology, and dentistry so that we could have these full orofacial teams instead of working in silos. You do this, you do this, you do this, but we don't know what each other does and we don't know how we can help each other. I want to be like, we're a facial team, whether it's the eyes or the nose or the cheeks or the chin or the teeth or the tongue or the ears, whatever. We should work as a team.
Okay.
So that was my goal with that.
Interesting. Is that what it is, what you have written on your website too, orofacial treatment for dentofacial harmony? Is that congruent with that?
Yeah, that's the topic. And that's actually a topic that I talk about a lot in a lot of Seattle study clubs because they're pretty open-minded about this. And I bring in a lot of research that we have done, research from the plastic surgery journals, and discuss how we can analyze faces and get better smiles out of that.
Now, somebody who's not a part of Seattle Study Club or it's too far, where could they learn something like that? Is it with Digital Smile Design with Dr. Christian Koshman and you?
Yeah. We have a team called the Oral Facial Club that is comprised of some experts from around the world that discuss this. And every year we do a symposium. This year I think it's in Brazil. But also, I come around and speak all over the place, not necessarily only in Seattle Study Club. So you may catch me speaking about it in your city sometime. Yeah.
So so research is one thing, right? I mean, research has been going on in implantology for the last 30, 40, 50 years, I don't know. And but only in the last 15 years that implants have, or at least dental implants have become important and very common, I should say, relatively. Now, research is one thing, but practical, applications are two different aspects. And you, being an entrepreneur, you would understand that more than anybody else. How could they implement the lip factor in their office? Like me, if I want to do something like that, has it reached to that level yet, or is it still in the research phase yet?
No, so it has reached that level. The thing is, it depends on how surgically inclined you are, because we do have dentists that are doing this. We have oral surgeons, periodontists that are doing the actual lip surgery, but it depends on the legality and your training. So like in California, I would love to be able to do it, but I legally can't do it.
Right.
But I'm lucky that I have Dr. Bentale, who's like the world leader in lip lifts, down the street and on speed dial. So I think the easiest way to incorporate this type of orofacial treatment into your practice is to get close with an oral surgeon or a plastic surgeon that can do this type of treatment. And treatment plan together, teeth, lips, jaws, joints, everything together as one team. So that's the easiest way, is kind of refer that area out, but understand how it's going to happen.
Okay, I understand. So basically, because of the legalities and the licensing issues, you cannot implement it, but that at least gives you the right direction. By the way, Mr. Smith, we can probably do this with my plastic surgeon or oral surgeon.
Exactly.
And then we can make you prettier, beautiful, whatever. Okay.
Yeah, and some of that has to do with aging. People don't want to look old. And oftentimes we've seen these cases where, you do a full mouth rehab or you do all on four or something like this, and we give these people very young teeth, right?
Right.
They have mamelons and there's no stains. They're bright. They're very aligned, but then they still have an old face
Right.
or an old lip. So what I wanted to do with that was reverse the aging of the perioral region,
Right.
so that the patient in general looks younger, not just their teeth look younger.
Okay. Right. One of the dentists actually reached out to me when he came to know that I'm interviewing you today, and he asked me, and I said, could you ask him a question? So it's related to digital smile design.
Sure.
And to give a shout out, this is Dr. Daniel O'Rourke, and he was like, he asked me, I would like to know the protocol in designing a smile. I think he was referring to digital smile design. And if the patient's complete dental system has to be brought in harmony prior to the design phase. So I just try to elaborate on it. And I asked him again, and I asked him, so you want me to use DSD, but do we need to stabilize the patient before getting into the digital smile design? Is that true?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
It depends on the case, but I can't think of a case where you have to necessarily stabilize the patient. Now, of course, if there is phase 1 treatment in the sense that, there's a huge infection or the patient is in crazy pain,
right.
We're not going to say, let's design your smile in that case. We need to get the patient out of pain, controlled infection at least, and then we can start designing the smile. So maybe that's what he means. But
yes, certainly.
No, we have many cases where the teeth are in the wrong position, the bite is off, everything is a mess, and we can design this smile digitally, remotely, so that when we go in, we're starting with the end in mind, and we can do the most minimally invasive treatment. I just did a case on Monday, an all-on-4 case, where the only thing we did before the treatment was records. We did intraoral scan, facial photos, and CT scan. That was all we did. And we then, on the day of treatment on Monday, we extracted the teeth, placed implants, attached the pre-designed, digitally designed and milled restoration. And I have to tell you, the result was amazing. The incisal edge was in the perfect position. The incisal edges matched the lower lip.
Yeah.
The patient's bite was good. She showed the right amount of tooth. She could speak. And everything was planned remotely. And we did that with the DSD Planning Center.
Great. So did you make guides for that to do such a precision-oriented?
We did.
You just guide. Is there a guided implant surgery system that you use, or what do you specifically?
Yeah, so I use two systems. I use Noble Biocare, and I also use MIS. Those are the two implant systems that I use. Both have their, I would say, advantages and disadvantages, and they both work.
Okay.
But for me, for a guided surgery system, what's important to me is drill stops.
Right.
Drill stops are very important for me.
Sure.
I think that having drill stops brings down my anxiety and makes me know that I'm not going to drill too deep.
Yeah.
I'm not going to drill shallow. I know exactly where I'm going to drill to.
Right.
So having good visualization and drill stops is very important to me in a guided surgery system.
Got it. So do you use a software system like Blue Sky Bio or something similar?
Yeah. So when I'm working with Nobel, they have their DTX Studio, which I think is a very robust software system. It allows you to do a lot, very, very nice and clean. Okay. And then with MIS, it is called the M-Guide system.
Their own? So, that's their own system?
That, I think it's through, there's a Swiss company, I think, that they license it through. I can't remember what their name is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now I think I want to move towards a little bit about your entrepreneur journey with Pearl.
Okay.
Because very interesting to me, somebody who's a dentist and who's involved with and entrepreneurship is different. Um,
Yes, that's true.
so not many people can afford to do that, but because dentistry is stressful enough, now you add a business component to it. That's it. You're done. Basically, you're done. So, for people who don't know about Pearl, Pearl is an AI powered digital smile. No, AI powered. Why don't you tell me?
Okay, sure.
It'll be easy for them to.
Yeah, so Pearl, and our website is hellopearl.com.
Mm-hmm.
We are a company that focuses on computer vision. So computer vision is a subset of artificial intelligence. And we do we handle a multitude of tasks for the dental community based on computer vision. So we look at radiographs and analyze radiographs with the eyes of an expert, so just like humans. We can analyze these radiographs to give you business intelligence tools. We can analyze radiographs for dental insurance to help make that process a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also analyze intraoral scans, so STL files from 3Shape, iTero, et cetera, to analyze what's happening in the scan, give it a score, and also automatically mark the margins.
Right.
And those are some of the different aspects that we do. But ultimately, we are a dental company that focuses on computer vision.
Yeah. So I think I heard your story with Dr. Howard Farhan.
Yes.
Getting into Hello Pearl, but I think I'm most interested in your entrepreneurship journey to get the funding.
Okay.
What was that like? How did you get involved with that?
I can't take a lot of credit for that.
All right.
Our CEO Ophir did most of that.
Okay.
Because I was very new to this tech world.
Right.
But our CEO Ophir, who was my patient at my practice, he has owned tech companies for 15 years. And so for him, he had raised tens of millions of dollars before from a venture capitalist.
Right.
So he had all the connections and the ways of doing it. So I really can't take much credit for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you know what all he had to go through to get? Did you say $11 million funding?
Yeah, we raised 11 million.
Did you know the process? Just basic processes or steps involved?
Well, I was there when we were meeting with Craft Ventures, who led our funding round.
Okay.
And it's interesting because it's led by a guy named David Sachs, who is actually one of the founders of PayPal.
Huh.
So super cool for me to even, meet David.
Right.
And now, to call him a colleague. But, it's like any other type of, let's say Shark Tank or something like that, where you are pitching someone your idea, and there's a negotiation that happens. The good thing was that with Ophir, him and David had a relationship before, so they have been colleagues and friends for a long time. And David really understands that Ophir is a high level, top tier entrepreneur. So there's a lot of trust that comes with that.
Sure.
If you're my really good friend and you come to me and say, "Hey, can I borrow $20?" I'll probably say, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah.
But if you're a random person on the street and you come to me and say, "Hey, can I borrow $20?" I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm going to get my money back. So a lot of that had to do with trust and experience. So I was lucky that Pearl has Ophir as our CEO, who's really, he brought a company from nothing to doing hundreds of millions of dollars a year in his previous company. So he's a proven serial entrepreneur, and I've learned a lot from him.
I'm sure. So what is one thing that you loved or learned the most from Mr. Ophir?
From Ophir, let me see.
Yeah.
I would say his calmness in meetings, his honesty and transparency in meetings, and I think his lack of ego as well.
Wow.
He's very honest when we're talking with people. His ego is down. And I think that comes through. People hear that on the other side, and it builds trust. So
Interesting.
that's what I would probably say.
Great. So, so AI has been involved. So you've been involved with AI, and how far AI has been successful in diagnosing, treatment planning, and actually doing the clinical dentistry. Has it
Yeah,
gone that
so
far?
I don't think we've gone as far as doing the clinical treatment. I think that's what a lot of dentists are worried about. Are you going to put me out of out of a job?
Oh yeah, that is one of my
And
questions, by the way.
yes, and no. I would say we're very good at diagnosing,
Mm-hmm.
aligned with humans or better than humans. So this like superhuman performance. Treatment planning as well, aligned with humans or better than humans. We're definitely there. Analyzing intraoral scans, aligned with humans or better than humans. Going to the clinical aspect, that's getting involved with AI and robotics,
Right.
which I think is coming.
Mm-hmm.
We do have companies like Yomi that are placing implants with robots,
Right.
and I think that's definitely the future of implant dentistry.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not there yet with the clinical aspect.
When do you
Right now,
think?
it's more the diagnostic aspect, business intelligence,
Mm,
and insurance products, lab products, but not bring it to actually doing it. I don't think dentists are going to be out of a job probably ever.
ever? Well,
Yeah,
I think I was listening to Elon Musk's interview with Joe
yeah,
Rogan, and he says something similar. It's going to take a while, but they are coming. They are coming.
for
To,
sure. I mean, there's people that are working on small little robotics that will go around and clean your teeth.
right. Right.
So I
Um,
think that mm, let's say long-term future, I don't know, 50,
okay.
100 years from now, I
Hmm.
think there will still be dentists,
Uh huh.
but we may not be doing the clinical aspects that we're doing now. We may be guiding the robots
Mm.
or there because, what are humans good at? We're good at empathy, critical thinking, um,
Relationships. Yeah.
relationships. Yeah, so these are really important. And when you're dealing with humans, you're going to want to have a human involved in that at some point. So in 100 years, do I think we'll be placing implants? No, robots will be doing that. Do I
Mm.
think we'll be prepping crowns and doing fillings? I would probably say no, but
Mm.
we will be overseeing the robots.
Mm. Now, let's not go 100 years from now. Let's go
Okay.
next decade.
Yeah.
What do you think in next ten years, you know, with your experience in AI and whatnot, um, how much of clinical dentistry, would be impacted by AI, and what part?
I would say that all of the diagnosis will be done by AI.
Mm-hmm.
All of the treatment plan will be done by AI. All of the restoration process, so I'd say the lab portion,
Okay.
will be done by AI with milling and robots.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think any of the in the mouth dentistry will be done by AI in the next 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But we will have made it so that things are more consistent, things are reproducible, they have long-term research behind them, and I think that will help. I think we will level the playing field a little bit to where, right now if you go to 10 different dentists, I always say this, you go to 10 different dentists, you get 11 different opinions,
Perfect. Yep.
you
Yep.
know?
Yep. Yeah.
I want to make it so that you go to 10 different dentists, you get one opinion.
Hmm.
I want to make it so that, some of my professors at school said there's only one diagnosis,
Hmm.
but there can be many different treatments. And
Mm-hmm.
I would love to make that the same. You go to me, you go to you go to Dr. Najad, Dr. Helm, you go to Christian, you go to Pascal, Sasha, there's one diagnosis.
Hmm.
Now the treatment may change based on the dentist's experience, the dentist's philosophies, the patient's philosophies, the patient, how much they want to pay or don't want to pay or how fast they want it to do. But I think the diagnosis will be consistent, which will help build trust in our profession.
So once we have a level playing field, let's flash forward 10 years right now, and we have all that diagnosis and treatment planning. How would Dr. Kyle be different than Panks? I'm nobody right now, but I'm just saying
Yeah,
10
no,
years.
it's a good question. Will we have the, let's say, celebrity dentists
Right.
in the future?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I mean, as long as we are a capitalistic society, there will always be people that will find a way to be better at business, better at marketing, better at relationship building. So I think we'll still have outliers. But what I would like to do is bring the average up. You still may have very high performers, you still may have very low performers, but right now I think the average in dentistry could be raised, and I think that's what the technology is going to do.
I was thinking about Naval Ravikant. I don't know if you know him. He's
No.
really one of those entrepreneurs and based in Silicon Valley, and he has a really great podcast, an old called Naval, Naval. I'll put the
Hmm.
link to it. But he also talks about the jobs go away, but there are new jobs, new kinds of jobs are created, even though it's AI powered or
Yeah,
so
that's
essentially,
exactly right.
so people
I
do. Go ahead.
Sorry, I think that that's a big concern with AI is that we're going to be putting people out of jobs, and I think it's a very valid concern because I
Mm-hmm.
think it can happen.
Mm-hmm.
However, there are other jobs that are created, just like that person is saying that there's more developers that are needed, and people are going to need to market the new AI technology. So you have new marketing scans. So
Yeah,
I do agree that in general, I think there will be less jobs. So I think that that is a concern, but I don't think it's going to be as massive as many people are making it
got it. Hmm.
sound.
Yeah. Um, Now, what else do you think are the practical applications which are coming in next 5 years? I'm not talking 10 years now. Let's talking about 5 years where Pearl is going to be implementing um, in the dental industry.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. Most of the, I would say, mundane tasks in the dental industry will be automated through AI.
Hmm.
So let's say, and there's some companies that are already doing this. Um, I don't think we will have a front office staff
Okay.
anymore.
Hmm.
I think that will be all AI driven.
Okay.
I think that people, so answering the phones will all be AI driven. People, I don't know if they'll even use phones anymore, but
Mm-hmm.
with natural language processing, which is a type of AI,
Right.
that is very, you know, it, if you remember Siri 5 years ago or
Yeah.
8 years ago, she was
Yeah.
terrible.
She
And
was.
Siri now, she's not great, but she's gotten a lot better.
Certainly.
And Alexa is really good, and so that has really improved. Anything that is using natural language processing, that will be automated. I
Mm-hmm.
think we will be talking to our computers to write our notes, talking to our computers to perio chart.
Mm-hmm.
I also think some of the planning will be automated through AI. So let's say, like I was talking about with that case on Monday, you
Mm-hmm.
take photos, intraoral scans, face scan, CT. It'll automatically be brought together with AI and automatically give you a preview of what the AI thinks is best
Right. Right.
based on millions of patients just like them. The same thing with implant dentistry, and this is an area that we have on our roadmap, which is bringing together implants, CT scans, intraoral scans, face scans. Again, bringing it all together, finding where there are missing teeth,
Right.
placing implants at the correct depth, the correct implant size, the correct distance from the sinus of the nerve, the correct emergence profile, planning everything, automatically generating an STL file and having the STL file printed at that time. I think in 5 years, we will be there.
Hmm.
Whether it's us or another company, I mean, someone will be there.
Yeah. Right. Are you attached with any other AI companies or implant placement system, just like XNav or anything
Um,
like that?
we are not. I think XNav is really cool,
Mm-hmm.
but I also think XNav is for the expert, not the beginner.
Okay.
Because for me, I like to do fully guided surgeries
Mm-hmm.
because it guides my hand.
Mm-hmm.
I think that with XNav, it guides your brain,
Okay. Yeah.
but you could still make a mistake. Now, I've heard that the new XNav actually stops your drill if you go off path.
Oh, really?
So that's actually a cool idea.
Mm-hmm.
So that will stop people from making mistakes. Because before with XNav, my argument was you can place the implant in the wrong position, you'll just know it's in the wrong position.
Okay.
So with guided surgery, you physically can't place the implant in the wrong position unless you use the wrong drill or
Makes sense.
the guide isn't seated.
Right.
So I like the fact that it guided my hand because I already guided my brain when I did the planning. That was me guiding my brain. When I get into surgery, then I'm just executing what I planned before.
Interesting.
But I think that robotics is the future. I think that the Yomi, and I don't get paid anything for this.
Yeah, sure.
The Yomi robotic kind of companies will be the future.
Where are they based out of? Yomi.
I don't know where they're based out of. I have a feeling there's some, I don't know, maybe it's in Florida?
Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
I think it's YOMI.
YOMI? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll look into it. I haven't heard about anything about Yomi yet.
Yeah, they're the first robotic-based implant placement to where it actually locks the position, and so you can only go up and down, and you can only go up and down. It won't let you drill too deep. It won't let you drill too shallow. One of those things.
Right. Just like drill stops.
Exactly.
Okay. Interesting. So now I want to kind of humanize you here.
Okay.
I'm scared of you. You've done so much. You're one of the youngest speakers involved with guide, involved with, lecturing circuits, youngest speaker, and so on. Pearl, digital smile design, and whatnot. So what is your typical week like?
Yeah, so my typical week has changed dramatically in the last year. My typical week used to be working at my office 3 to 4 days a week. I was doing a little bit with Gum Gum at the time, which was the company before Pearl.
Right.
And then I was lecturing about 40 times a year. And now that has changed to where I'm in my practice 1 to 2 days a week.
Okay.
I'm with Pearl usually about 3 to 4 days a week. And then I'm still lecturing, but I'm doing it not 40 times a year, maybe 30 times a year.
Okay.
So I've reduced my clinical days, and that's mainly due to stress because I was getting a lot of stress from clinical dentistry. And now that I've reduced my clinical days to 1 to 2 days a week, I get to do the cases I want to do. I don't do the cases I don't want to do. And I can manage my stress better.
Great. So 1 to 2 days and what about the weekends? So that's when you use your weekends for your speaking engagements?
Yeah, weekends are sometimes speaking, but I try to keep them sacred as much as I can for family.
Yeah.
Because, family is my number one priority. When I wake up in the morning, I try to spend 2 hours with my son if I can, and I try to spend 2 hours with him in the evening before he goes to bed. So if I can get 4 hours with my son every day, then I'm happy.
Great. Yeah, because I was just watching your video with your son on Facebook.
Yeah.
Playing with the ball and everything.
Right.
That was pretty cool. Interesting. People don't have time to spend time with their children. I mean, they don't understand that's so important.
Yeah, well, I think I went the wrong way for a while. I was so focused on my career that I'm lucky that I have my wife who can kind of bring me back to earth. I'm like, hey, I got invited to speak in Brazil and Malaysia and London, and she's like, yeah, but like we want you here.
Oh wow.
We don't care how much money we have.
Yeah.
We don't care how famous you want to be. We just want our daddy here, and I want my husband here, and Valco wants his daddy here. So it really brought me back to earth and realized this is the time. Nobody looks back and says like, gosh, I really wish I worked more when my son, when my son was little.
Yeah.
I talked to so many dads and they all say, cherish this time when your kids are young. Work as little as you can, which is hard because you usually have kids when you're younger, and that's when you're trying to build your career, and that's when you're trying to establish yourself. So I had to have a little bit of an intervention. And thank God my wife is honest with me and tells me this stuff. And so I tried to decrease my traveling. If I do travel, I try to not be gone more than one day. So this doesn't make it easy, of course. Sometimes I do double red eyes. I'll red eye to New York, not even stay in a hotel, and red eye back the same day.
Wow.
But to me, it's important to be back for my family. And that's become my number one priority. So, if I'm making less money, but I'm happier, then that's great.
So, so how do you say no to some great speaking engagement? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that was a big problem for me. I was definitely a yes man, especially with lecturing.
Yeah.
Because I was like, lecturing it's kind of easy money. There is no risk.
Sure.
There's no staff. There's no overhead.
Right.
You always feel good about yourself. When you're done, everyone says, wow, those cases are amazing. You're so good. I left feeling so great all the time.
Yeah.
So that was hard because especially when I'm trying to build my career, if someone's going to invite me and they're going to pay me, I'm going to say, yeah, let's do it.
Right.
But it started to cause problems with, my partners, and they would say, hey, Kyle, you're gone all the time. Or my wife would say, hey, you're gone all the time. And so I think it was 2017 or 2018 was my year of saying no. And it was very freeing, actually. It was very hard.
Right.
It's hard to say no to money. But it was very freeing. And that year, I made much less money.
Okay.
And I was actually much happier.
Wow. Thank you.
Because what I didn't realize was that when I was away from my family, although I enjoyed it while I was there, when I came back, I felt like I had missed out on something. My wife would show me pictures of, hey, look we went to the park today, or we went to his dance class today, or we did this or this. And I wanted to be there so much. And was it worth making the money? No, it wasn't. Because I'll never get that time back.
Now, I think in general, dentists are very ambitious people. Everybody.
You're right.
Dentists usually are more ambitious than, I don't know, a hygienist or an assistant or whatever. Now, how did you, so money is one part and family is one part, but how did you talk yourself out of that ambition? You see?
Yeah. Well, I think for me, I had these hard times where I was really stressed out with treating patients. And I realized that clinical dentistry was causing me anxiety many times. And so I had to have this realization that my, my identity wasn't being a dentist.
Oh, really?
My identity is being a father. My identity is being a husband, being a son, being a brother. My relationships are my identity. But my profession is dentistry.
Got it.
And that was what my realization was. Because what I realized was that when you meet somebody in a plane or at a party, they're kind of like, so tell me about yourself. And we always start with our profession. Or they say, what do you do, right? You say,
right.
I'm a dentist. And this is my identity. And I think so many of us, even outside of dentistry, we mix up our profession as our purpose. And so my purpose is to be a dad. That's my number one purpose in life. But I didn't realize that at first.
Wow.
I thought my purpose was to be a dentist. Because in dentistry, we all fail, right? Yeah. We have cases that break. We have cases that fail. We have cases that are even a big success in our eyes, but our patients don't think they're a big success.
True.
So at some point, you're going to fail. And for those young dentists out there, if you haven't failed yet, you will. And this is hard for dentists because we are overachievers. We have to do well in high school to get into college. We have to do well in college to get into dental school. We have to do well in dental school to get into residency or to pass dental school. So in general, we don't fail much. And then if you get out of school and you have a case that doesn't go well, we say, I spent the last 10, 20 years of my life doing this. Maybe I'm not as good as I thought, or maybe this isn't what I'm made to do.
Wow.
So for me, separating my identity and my purpose in life really made everything very clear.
Interesting. Very interesting. That's hard. That's really hard. I'm sorry, I got a little, I have a baby girl, so I know,
Yeah.
So
it gets emotional.
It's emotional.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Great. Great. Thank you for sharing that. Not many people would share that, and it's hard. It's hard to say no to a speaking gig, recognition, big case, recognition.
Yeah.
Happiness. So, what is your definition of happiness here? What made you choose, or what is your definition? What do you think would make you really happy? If you.
I always said that my goal in life now, as far as professional goal, let's say, would be to be able to do dentistry for free. So if I had, all the money in the world, let's say, I would love to treat people for free. I would love to show people a new, what's the word here? A new representative of dentistry, because so many people are scared of the dentist, but I would love to make it achievable for them. I would love to, use sedation techniques, and which I do now, but doing it for free, I think, would be a professional goal of mine. So happiness for me is being with my family, for sure. Number one would be being with my family, but also I think being with my family and not having to worry about my profession.
Right.
Because, there's sometimes we're with our family, but we're like, gosh, we got to pay the bills.
It is true.
Money doesn't buy happiness, for sure. And I've definitely realized that. But we need money to live. So there's that fine balance there.
Got it. Well, so now you've been pretty successful in this whole journey until right now, and you're obviously going to go deeper. Who do you think is successful in your eyes?
In my eyes, I would have to say my father.
Oh, really?
And when you look at my father, he's not rich.
Okay.
He's not poor.
Yeah.
I would say he's rich in in things that are not material. He's rich in family. He's been married to my mom for almost 50 years. Again, he's not rich, he's not poor. He's known as a good person.
Okay.
When people talk about my dad, like, oh, I love your dad, he's so cool, he's so easygoing, they know that they can trust him, they know that they can call on him for something. So, for him to be, and again, I'm getting emotional too talking about this, but
sure.
Yeah, he would be, successful for me if I could do what he has done.
Sure.
Raised kids, given my mother a great life.
Yeah.
And had a successful marriage.
Sure.
That's one of the difficult things to do. It may be easier to have a successful business than it is to have a successful marriage. So,
true.
I gotta give credit to my parents for that.
So, I still want to dig in there because I was talking to my mom today in the morning, and we were talking about my dad too. He passed away 2 years ago.
I hear that.
Anyways, I was thinking about what my dad used to say, all that. But I think since we're already touching that point here with your dad, why don't you tell me what is one thing that you've learned from your father and which he says over and over,
Oh, good question. Well, gosh, I don't know if he says anything over and over. They're usually jokes that he says over and over, very bad dad jokes over and over again.
Yeah.
I would say the thing that I've learned more through observation
Sure.
is just his his overall goal in life is his family.
Mm.
Whether it's my mom or me and my three brothers,
It's okay. Oh.
that's his everything.
Mm.
You know, and me and my three brothers, we've always criticized him for, you know, not being as entrepreneurial, let's say, right? Like,
Very
gosh,
true.
Dad, you could have invested in this or you could have invested in this. But I think he wanted to play it safe. He wanted to make sure that his family was taken care of, but
Yes.
that there wasn't risk happening. And I get it now, but I didn't get it growing up
Wow.
till I had my own kids.
I completely, and I think we both are emotional here. Do you want to take a break? Maybe a glass of water or something?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Well, exactly same thing for my dad too. He didn't buy a car until I was a dentist. Would you believe it?
Wow, that's amazing.
So he didn't have a car until I was a dentist. And then I was joking. I used to joke with him and I said, Dad, I think you wanted to buy the car for yourself because I'm gone.
Yeah, he finally got you out of the house. Right?
Yeah, right.
You're self-sufficient now.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I know it's pretty emotional, but thank you.
Sure.
So let's switch gear a little bit here and talk about your morning ritual. You know, do you have any morning ritual that you get up in the morning about meditation, running, exercise, water, whatever?
My morning ritual has definitely changed since I've had my son.
Sure.
So my morning ritual used to be wake up as late as possible to give me time to get ready, you know, eat some breakfast and go. Now my morning ritual is I usually don't set an alarm unless I have a very early case.
Okay.
My alarm is my son. And, you know, he wakes up between, let's say, 6 and 7.
Yeah.
And I try to be with him for, you know, almost 2 hours in the morning. So we eat breakfast together. We get him dressed. We play toys for a long time.
Sure.
And it kind of just grounds me.
Right.
And allows me to think about the day a little bit, but remember what's important.
Okay.
And so doing a little bit less clinical days has allowed me to have those mornings with my son. It also gives me a chance to give my wife a break.
Yeah.
Because she's with my son all day.
Sure.
And so she can sleep in a little bit and recharge because I know she's not going to have an easy day with him.
Yeah. Yeah. Children are demanding.
Yes.
So the days you're working, so what time do you start in the morning on your clinical days in the office?
Clinical days, I usually start at 8. So on those days, I don't have as much time with my son.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Mm-hmm. And then, you know, with my startup, it's a little more free. So I can maybe start later, work later type of thing. And so that's been nice.
Okay. So nice. The days you're not going to the dental office, you're you know, spending time with the kid and then start your journey, whatever, later.
Yes.
So, okay.
Yeah.
And, okay. Interesting. Now, all right, I'll come back to it. I think I have one more question brewing, but it's, we'll get there.
Yeah.
So if you could go back in your career or life and change one decision, what would that be?
I don't know if I have that one decision, but I would say one, let's say, attribute.
Sure.
I would say that I had a big ego early in my life. I would say definitely around college time. I had a big ego that I wish I would have not had.
Oh, really?
Going back. Yeah, I mean, I don't think people would say this about me. I don't think, like, if you ask my best friends, they would say, oh, no, Kyle doesn't have a big ego. But I was very opinionated.
Okay.
And opinionated sometimes for good, sometimes for bad. So I would say I would have been more, I don't even know what the word is. Yeah, I mean, less opinionated. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that would be it. Looking back on it, I remember like, debates that I had with people thinking, what a waste of time.
Sure. All right. So what is one of the hardest decisions you had to make over the past year or two?
Oh, wow. I mean, I would say that is limiting my clinical experience and going forward with Pearl. For me, I had been a clinical dentist for the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so to say now I'm going to limit my clinical days, only take certain cases, and focus on this tech startup was a big change for me. A big change for me. And it was a very big decision.
Yeah, because you're spending time, but you don't know if it's going to be as successful or as immediate return to you. It's a long game.
It is a long game. It is a big risk, big reward.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that aspect to it. So that was a difficult decision, but I think it came at the right time, because it came at a time when I was very stressed with managing a dental practice, managing patients, doing dentistry 4 or 5 days a week. So that aspect made it a little bit easier, but it still didn't make it an easy decision.
Got it. So how did you come up to decide in favor of Pearl? What was you talking? What was your thought process at that stage? You know what? I'm losing money. I understand, but this is for the long-term good, which may all make sense. But what gave you the confidence to, move to Pearl or AI?
I think that what I found was that when I was working with Ophir and working on AI, I was less stressed. So I think for me, it was an overall health, mind-body connection that I think would be good for me long-term.
Oh, okay.
I found that when I was in the practice, I was oftentimes stressed out. And when I was in, working on AI, I wasn't.
Now, isn't that strange that, with you having so much experience with so many great mentors, starting from Dr. Pascal, Christian Cushman, and so on, you're still stressed out in clinical dentistry. Right? I mean, imagine an average dentist who doesn't have all of that, it's still stressful.
Yeah, I agree. And, maybe it was because my mentors are so great that I had this very high bar that I set for myself.
Fair enough.
If everything I did wasn't excellent, I would beat myself up.
Fair
if
enough.
Everything I did wasn't successful, if everything I did wasn't the best I had ever seen or the best I had done to that day, then I would beat myself up. So it's a two-edged sword, I think, having these really well-known mentors.
I completely agree with that. Yeah, I think we are the enemies of ourselves in this situation.
For sure.
Right. Great. Thank you. By the way, all these questions are from Tim Ferriss. I am a big fan of Tim Ferriss.
He's great. I've read a lot of his books.
Yeah, you did. Since we're talking about books, I think it's a good segue there. What books have you read of Tim Ferriss? Let's start with that, and then maybe something else.
So I read a lot of business books while I was in my residency. And it was nice because I would read it, like on the beach in Brazil and stuff. But I read, oh gosh, I can't think of all of them. A lot of the classic business books, like The 1 Minute Manager and, oh gosh, what are the names of these? But books not about dentistry, books about marketing and one's called like Raving Fans, something like that. Yeah. So a lot of these business books I read, and that gave me a good start on how to run a business. I learned a lot from Dr. Najad as well. But I don't read very many business books now.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
any specific book that kind of spiritually or business-wise that actually connected with you the most?
There was a book called Everything is Marketing, and it is by the guy who started 1-800-Dentist.
Yes.
And it's a really good book. I mean, not only for dentists,
Yes.
but it's definitely geared towards dentists. That was a really, really good read. So I would recommend that to anybody.
I completely agree with that. And you're not the first one who's, who's by
Said that.
who said that? Who's really like, it's by Fred Joyle. Yeah,
Fred Joyle, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking for his name. I forgot the name too. I'm not good at names. So
Yeah, nobody.
so everything is marketing by Dr. Fred Joyle. Anything else? Maybe not.
Book-wise?
Yeah, book-wise or
Well, I would
podcast-wise.
have to say, so let's go clinical first. I think one of the best dental books to come out is Thomas Linkovicius, his book Zero Bone Loss Concepts.
Okay.
Totally is a game changer in implant dentistry, whether you're doing the restorative side or the surgical side. I think it will become a classic kind of Bible of implant dentistry. So it sells out like every week. Quintessence can't keep enough of them.
Really?
So clinical side, highly, highly recommend that one. That's the one that we talk about in our courses.
Right.
On a non-clinical book, there's a book called Why We Sleep, and it's by, I think his name is Matthew Walker, and he's one of the premier experts in sleep. And oh my gosh, my wife always gives me crap because I talk about it so much. My dad read it and I read it, and I've listened to a lot of his podcasts. He actually has a podcast with Joe Rogan too, that Joe Rogan interviewed him. And wow, it was mind-blowing how important sleep is and how it affects children and older people and our eating habits and our happiness. And oh my gosh, so that I would highly recommend Why We Sleep.
Got it.
It gets into the weeds though. So I think it's good for dentists because it talks about research and it's very, very science-based, which I love, as a researcher myself.
I was going to say.
I think that's one of the new things that will happen in dentistry over the next 5 years is every dentist will learn about sleep apnea.
Yeah.
And we will be the screeners for this.
Right. Yeah, sleep apnea is another beast. I think my understanding of sleep apnea, even though I want to do it and whatnot, and it doesn't really work out with many dentists because of the loops they have to
You're exactly right.
cross to get paid for the work being done. They were like, I can do 2 extra crowns, man. I don't want to get into the medical insurance thing. If somebody can make it really predictable, maybe only then, things would work out. Otherwise, it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard.
I think that will come. I think when the medical world, let's say, realizes that there's money in having dentists do this, because the medical insurance companies will make money if we can stop their patients from having these big medical problems.
Right.
So when they realize that, they'll be able to make it easier for dentists to do minimally invasive treatment to save people's lives. I mean, this is obstructive sleep apnea, and I'm in no way an expert in this, but I know a little bit. Really is something that can save people's lives.
Right. Wasn't that the Now, what other podcast did you listen to, if at all?
Yeah, so I do listen to Joe Rogan's podcast.
Sure.
I think he has a good balance of science with entertainment, with cars, with everything that I kind of like.
Yeah.
There's a good podcast by Spike Feresten, who is actually the writer of Seinfeld.
Oh, yeah.
And it's mostly around cars because I'm a big car guy.
Okay.
I love Porsches, so old and new Porsches.
Yeah.
So I love that one. I try to make, let's say, 80% of my podcast listening more entertainment based.
Right.
And 20% is, I'll listen to implant stuff or smile design stuff or research or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, come on. You've been researching for such a long, I think you need a break.
Yeah, because I enjoy my time driving. In LA we have a lot of traffic, so I get to listen to a lot of podcasts actually, which is kind of nice. I did listen to 2 kind of crime drama podcasts.
Okay.
One was called Dirty John, which was really good, and another one was called 22 Hours. If anybody likes kind of crime podcasts. Yeah, I didn't realize I liked those type of podcasts, and I listened to them, and I really enjoyed them.
Maybe
I couldn't wait to get back in my car to listen to them. Actually,
maybe I'll try that. I haven't tried anything because I believe, first of all, I don't have enough time. So I was like, okay, whatever time I have, I think I should try to improve myself, and that's what I'm trying to do here with this podcast also. So, well, I did listen to Robert Downey Jr. with Joe Rogan. It was a good
I haven't
podcast.
listened to that one yet.
Yeah, listen to that. It gets a little deeper. Yeah, how Robert Downey thinks and talks, and I loved it. So, what do you like to do the most in dentistry, in clinical dentistry, like procedure wise?
Yeah,
procedure-wise.
I really love. I would say the single implant is my ideal. I love like anterior single implants. Immediate placement, immediate provisionalization, guided surgery. That's probably my favorite thing to do.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, what do people never ask you that you wish they did?
That's a really good question. People oftentimes don't ask me what made me so driven. And I think what made me so driven was that I have 3 older brothers, and we were always involved with sports.
Okay.
And in general, we were, pretty good athletes. Well, one of my, 2 of my brothers were All-American water polo players, and they won a lot of championships. And my other brother and I were really high-level hockey players. And so we were always in competition. Now, of course, we were in competition with each other.
Right.
And we were in competition with other people that we were playing against. But I just had 3 great examples of, well, I guess 4 if you include my dad. So I had 3 boys above me and my dad who were just great people. And I wanted to prove that I could be, let's say, successful in one way or the other.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. See, I wouldn't have come to know. I mean, it's that your motivation. I wouldn't have guessed it at all. I wouldn't have guessed that at all. I think that's probably one of the reasons. If somebody's coming from a developing country, they usually come to a country like U.S. or U.K., Canada, whatever, to a developed nation. They are already geared up or motivated to do more.
Right.
In a way, because that's how their culture kind of trains them. And I think that's what your upbringing was, like your brothers kind of training you in a way to do more and better because they were older than you and, achievers in their own ways. So
yes.
Interesting. Great. Thank you. Now, what do you think is one habit that makes you so successful?
I would say lifelong learning. I am constantly trying to get better. I'm constantly trying to be smarter. I'm trying to learn. I think recently, over the last few years, I guess it's not a habit, but I've tried to bring my ego down and realize what I could improve on. But this is something that was instilled to me at USC when I went to school there, is this idea of lifelong learning. I'm always reading research. I'm always watching videos of other doctors. I'm listening to podcasts about, how to be a better dad, how to be a better father. I, like you, doing this podcast and, similar to Tim Ferriss, I love the idea of learning from other people and constantly lifelong learner. So I would say my habit would be being a lifelong learner. I want to know more. I want to get better.
And now, I think I have a similar problem. I want to learn more too. But then I was maybe reflecting on this thing a couple of months, whatever time ago. And I was like, how do I unlearn what I already know to accept what I'm trying to learn right now?
Yeah, these are like these dogmas, right? This happens a lot in dentistry, is that people get trained a certain way. And the people that are training them really believe in this type of training. And so it comes across as this is the best way to do it. But then when we have another way of doing it that may even be better, maybe less invasive, but it doesn't have the dogma behind it, we lose out on this opportunity of learning.
So how did you talk yourself into, so something is working for you in some way, let's say, anterior implant, that you always do it in a certain way, and it has given you good results for all these, I don't know, 10 years or so. How did you unlearn and that, or even try a new thing? Do you see what I'm saying?
I think for me, it is finding people that I respect, and I really have to trust them. Now, I also like it when there's research behind it too.
Okay.
If someone just comes and says, hey, this is better, this is a better way to do it, even if I really respect them, I may try it, but I may take it slow. But if they come and say, hey, here's the research on it, and this is why we do it, then I'll dive in.
Okay. So you have two components helping you deciding in that. So that is clinical. What about a day-to-day life? There is no research about, how to be a good father, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's more like an observational study, seeing someone and, seeing how they are in their marriage, seeing how they are with their kids.
Sure.
If they appear to be successful, not in financial terms, but successful in life, and happy and respected, then I'll have to take it at face value and make my own decisions on that.
Great, thank you. Next, if you have a giant billboard, such that, figuratively speaking, if you have a giant billboard such that you could display a great message or a quote for everyone to follow, of course, not about Pearl or your podcast. What about what would you like to tell people?
I think I would tell people either to be kind to each other, understanding, or I would tell them to be a good parent. I think that so many of the problems that we have in our society are because young children are dealing with traumas from bad parenting or lack of parenting, and they bring this into their adult life. And in no way am I a perfect parent, but it's one of my goals to be a perfect parent.
Right.
So I would say, I would probably go with be a mom, be a dad today, something like that.
Thank you. Now, there's one more question which I love to ask. I've recently added on the list. Give me a second.
Great.
Here.
Sure.
Now.
And I've got a few more minutes left, both on my battery and on my and on my time. So the room that I'm in doesn't have a plug for my
that's okay. So laptop. What is one thing that you've changed your mind on in the past 1 year or 2 years?
I think this is what we were discussing before, which is my identity.
Right.
My identity not being synonymous with my profession.
Got it.
And I think once we have, when we're single and we have our profession, like your identity should be your profession, when you're there. But once you have more than yourself, when you have a family of your own, your identity should not be your profession.
Right. Now, I'll ask you one last question, and I think we can wrap up after that.
Great.
One thing that you do is absurd or funny?
That I do that is absurd or funny. I dance a lot.
Oh, great.
So I grew up as, I was actually a professional dancer by the time I think it was 8. So I love to dance. It's probably one of my favorite things to do in all of life. I feel the most free. I feel happy. I really enjoy life when I'm dancing. So at my house, we dance a lot. We put on music and we just dance silly, with my son, with my wife. So that would probably be it. Me doing random dance moves, going from room to room.
Thank you. That was an entertaining answer at the end. Thank you.
Well, thanks for the invitation. Nice to meet you. Hope to meet you in person sometime.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Max. See ya.
Would you like to get a really small email a couple times a month to see what hashtag POD is up to? What are we reading? What are we listening to? What are we doing? What's stupid, funny, entertaining, and some weird stuff that we gotten ourselves into? Then go to podcastsofdentistry.com/extra. EXTRA. That's right. podcastsofdentistry.com/extra. And you will get a really small email from us to give you that little extra kick and keep you busy exploring the world we travel. You can also find us on Facebook at podcastsofdentistry.com/Facebook. Thank you for listening. Hashtag POD. And I'll see you inside.